Right, picture this absolute cinema. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer, standing at the dispatch box during Prime Minister's questions, probably thinking he has got his answers prepared, his deflections rehearsed, his serious face properly calibrated for maximum authority. Then an MP stands up, not with some vague accusation or political point scoring, but with actual evidence, proper receipts, documented proof that Starmer has been lying to Parliament and to the British public. And Starmer's response? He does not stand there and defend himself. He does not attempt to explain or justify or even deny. No, this man actually walks out. He literally abandons Prime Minister's questions, turns around and leaves the chamber while an MP is presenting evidence of his dishonesty. I am not exaggerating for effect here. This actually happened, and the political fallout is absolutely nuclear. We are talking about a constitutional crisis, a breach of parliamentary protocol so severe it makes previous scandals look like minor administrative errors, and a Prime Minister whose credibility just evaporated faster than morning dew in the Sahara. If you want to catch every moment of this absolute political meltdown and stay ahead of the chaos unfolding in Westminster right now, hit that subscribe button and smash the notifications bell, because what I'm about to show you is genuinely unprecedented, and you absolutely cannot afford to miss what happens next. So, let us set the stage properly, because the context here is absolutely crucial to understanding just how monumentally Starmer has messed up. Prime Minister's Questions is not just any old parliamentary session. It is the weekly showdown where the Prime Minister is held accountable, where MPs get to ask difficult questions, where transparency and accountability are supposed to be on full display for the entire nation to see. Walking out of PMQs is not just rude or unprofessional, it is a fundamental breach of the constitutional conventions that underpin our democracy. Prime Ministers do not just leave when the questions get uncomfortable. They stay, they answer, they defend their positions. That is literally the job. But apparently nobody told Starmer that, or perhaps he just decided that facing scrutiny was optional. The MP who triggered this spectacular meltdown deserves significant credit here, because what they did was absolutely devastating in its simplicity. They did not shout, they did not rant, they did not engage in theatrical displays of outrage, they simply stood up with documents in hand, physical evidence of contradictions between what Starmer has said publicly and what the actual facts show. We are talking about quotes from Starmer's own speeches, policy documents that contradict his public statements, evidence of promises made and spectacularly broken, proof that the Prime Minister has been, to put it in the most charitable terms possible, economical with the truth. And as this MP methodically laid out each piece of evidence, you could see Starmer's discomfort growing like a balloon being inflated to the point of bursting. The specific lies being exposed are absolutely damning, and they cover multiple policy areas where Starmer has said one thing and done another. There is evidence about immigration promises that were made during the campaign and completely abandoned once in office. There are quotes about economic policy, where Starmer promised one approach and then implemented the exact opposite. There are commitments about transparency and accountability that look absolutely laughable in hindsight, given how secretive and evasive his government has been. Each piece of evidence is like another nail in the coffin of Starmer's credibility, and the MP presenting them is wielding the hammer with surgical precision. What makes this even more devastating is that these are not matters of interpretation or political spin. These are direct contradictions, provable lies, instances where Starmer's own words can be placed side by side with his actions, and the discrepancy is impossible to explain away. It's like being caught on camera stealing something and then claiming you were nowhere near the scene when the video clearly shows your face. The evidence is right there, undeniable and damning, and everyone in that chamber knows it.
The moment Starmer decides to walk out is absolutely extraordinary to witness. You can see him looking increasingly agitated as the evidence mounts. You can see him conferring with advisors. You can see the color rising in his face. And then, instead of standing his ground and attempting to defend himself, instead of showing even a shred of the leadership and courage you would expect from a Prime Minister, he just turns and walks away. The symbolism is absolutely devastating. It is a visual representation of a man who cannot defend his record, who cannot answer for his actions, who would rather run away than face accountability. It is political cowardice on full display for millions to witness. The reaction in the chamber is immediate and chaotic. Opposition MPs are shouting, demanding that Starmer return and answer the questions. The Speaker is trying to maintain order, but looking absolutely bewildered because this situation is so unprecedented that there's not really a clear protocol for it. Labour MPs look mortified, some of them visibly cringing at their leader's behaviour, knowing that this is going to be replayed on every news channel and shared across every social media platform for days, if not weeks. The whole scene descends into absolute pandemonium, and at the centre of it all is the empty space where the Prime Minister should be standing but is not. Now, let us talk about what this walkout actually means in constitutional terms, because this is not just bad optics or a political misstep. This is a serious breach of parliamentary convention that raises fundamental questions about Starmer's fitness for office. Prime Minister's questions exists specifically to hold the executive accountable to Parliament. It is one of the key mechanisms by which our democracy functions. When a Prime Minister refuses to participate, when they literally walk away from scrutiny, they are undermining the entire system. It's like a football player picking up the ball and walking off the pitch because they don't like the referee's decisions. It's simply not how the game is played, and doing it reveals either a catastrophic misunderstanding of the role or a contemptuous disregard for democratic norms. The media reaction to this incident has been absolutely brutal, and deservedly so. Even outlets that are normally sympathetic to Labour have been forced to acknowledge that this is undefensible behaviour. The images of Starmer walking out while an MP is presenting evidence of his lies are being shown on repeat. The clips are going viral, and the commentary is universally damning. Political analysts are calling it a watershed moment, a point from which Starmer's premiership may never recover. Constitutional experts are expressing serious concerns about the precedent being set, and the public is absolutely furious that the person they elected to lead the country can't even be bothered to answer questions about his own dishonesty. The opposition parties are having an absolute field day, as you might imagine. The Conservatives are calling for Starmer's immediate resignation, arguing that a Prime Minister who lies to Parliament and then refuses to answer for those lies has lost all moral authority to govern. Reform UK is being even more direct, with Nigel Farage calling it proof that Starmer is fundamentally unfit for office and demanding an emergency debate on a vote of no confidence. Even the Liberal Democrats, who normally try to stay above the fray, are expressing serious concerns about what this incident reveals about the state of British democracy under Labour. But here's where things get really interesting: the reaction within the Labour Party itself. Because while publicly Labour MPs are rallying around their leader and trying to defend the indefensible, privately the knives are absolutely out. Sources within the party are briefing journalists that this was a catastrophic error of judgment, that Starmer has damaged not just his own reputation, but the entire party's credibility, that backbenchers are furious at being put in the position of having to defend behaviour they know is wrong. There's talk of emergency meetings, of senior figures trying to convince Starmer to make some kind of public apology or explanation, of growing sentiment that he needs to be replaced before he drags the entire party down with him. The specific evidence that was being presented when Starmer walked out deserves closer examination because it's absolutely devastating stuff. The MP had documentation showing that Starmer made explicit promises about NHS funding during the election campaign, promises that were central to Labour's pitch to voters, and then implemented a completely different funding model once in office. There is evidence of statements Starmer made about immigration controls that bear absolutely no resemblance to the policies his government has actually implemented. There are quotes about economic policy where Starmer promised one approach and then implemented the exact opposite. There are commitments about transparency and accountability that look absolutely laughable in hindsight, given how secretive and evasive his government has been. Each piece of evidence is like another nail in the coffin of Starmer's credibility, and the MP presenting them is wielding the hammer with surgical precision. What makes this even more devastating is that these are not matters of interpretation or political spin. These are direct contradictions, provable lies, instances where Starmer's own words can be placed side by side with his actions, and the discrepancy is impossible to explain away. It's like being caught on camera stealing something and then claiming you were nowhere near the scene when the video clearly shows your face. The evidence is right there, undeniable.